Welcome back to a new episode of Let's Talk About Star Wars with Maggie Levitt. Don't worry, I am not going to spoil anything about the new season of The Mandalorian. If you want to hear all of my unfiltered late night talks about The Mandalorian, you can watch the live streams that I'm on every Friday and Saturday night. I'm on the Star Wars Friends podcast Friday night and the Geeky Waffle Saturday night. That's where you can hear all of my crazy theories about what I think is going to happen this season and where I thirst over certain actors because that's just who I am. Before we get to the main part of today's episode, I did want to go over a couple of things. This week, Disney Books sent me this beautiful poster. Don't worry, there are no spoilers in here. So it's spoiler free. It comes out November 3rd. It's so great. I own the season 1 poster book and this one is just as fantastic. I also got this mailed to me by Del Rey Books. It is so big and I cannot wait to dive into it. I am on embargo until November 3rd and the book comes out on November 10th. But I do plan to talk about it next week since I'll be able to. So check back in next Saturday or Sunday or throughout the week and you can hear all about my thoughts on the certain point of view. I'm really excited about this book because it has so many of my favorite authors involved with it, and it's bound to be fantastic. And then with the return of The Mandalorian, Candace and Eric and I have decided to extend the fundraiser, the trans rights or human rights fundraiser. The season finale of The Mandalorian is December 18th, and the fundraiser will close out December 20th. We have currently raised around $10,600 with new donations coming in since the start of The Mandalorian. I said in so many different newspaper articles and online postings during the month of September that it's really important that when you feel like you should step up and do something, you should. It's really easy as allies to make angry tweets and to kind of be performative. But real advocacy is putting it into action. And so this experience has just been surreal and it's been so humbling to see the way the Star Wars community, both the fans and the creators and the actors and everyone has kind of rallied together to support the trans community. We also got a shout out in the Variety magazine that came out 3 weeks ago. If you picked up this because of Pedro Pascal, flip to about page 53, I think it was. There's a really great article about philanthropy and actors in philanthropy, and for some reason I got a mention. Still super surreal. I really could not have done this without Eric and Candace and the entire Star Wars community as just a conduit for a good deed. And I really just want to say that, one person, one group, one community can make a huge impact, and you never know when you should step up and do something. And, it's just been such an extremely incredible experience. On another topic, which isn't too dissimilar from that, the election is coming up. If you are an American and you have not already cast your vote, please remember to get out on November 3rd and vote in this election. It is so vital that we elect a president who has empathy, intelligence, and respect. And it's really been super encouraging to see Star Wars actors like Mark Hamill, Pedro Pascal, and Carl Weathers using their social media platforms to encourage people to vote and fighting the good fight against the oppression and tyranny which we have seen for the last 4 years. Which actually brings me right into the topic for today's episode. Now, don't look too surprised that this is the topic of today's episode. If you watched my intro video, you know that Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie because of its proximity to the 2016 election and the sense of hope it gave me amidst a lot of hopelessness. We are quickly approaching the 4th anniversary of Rogue One, and I'm really hoping that this year I can rewatch it and actually feel genuine hope. So please don't let me down. Recently, the Disney brands posted a really cute graphic on all their different platforms for Marvel, for Toy Story, and for Star Wars that just said vote. It didn't say who to vote for, none of that. And I made the mistake of breaking my rule and I read the comments on Facebook and on Twitter. It was bad, guys. It was really bad. Just some of the vitriol that people were spreading was just, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but I still was. I mean, at no point did Star Wars tell you who to vote for, but I feel like you should probably know, and if you're angry because they're telling you to vote, then you probably know you're voting for the dark side. I mean, even Trevor Noah gets that there's a certain political party that
Friday
is kind of the dark side.
Support the Trump campaign, featuring all the villains from Star Wars.
You know? Let's go back to the 1960s, to a world before Star Wars, when George Lucas was in college. The Vietnam War was taking place at that time, and you're going to be hard-pressed to find anyone who was creating during that period of time that wasn't influenced by the Vietnam War. George was against the war like many others, and you can find a lot of quotes in Dale Pollock's biography about George Lucas, which Lucas was extensively interviewed for, about his opinions about the war. You can also find a few different news articles with quotes from George Lucas about that, so you can probably find those down in the synopsis of this video. I will make sure to link them. But there's also a really fantastic James Cameron interview with George Lucas about how Star Wars was anti-authoritarian. He talks about how the film is set up. You have a group of rebels fighting an asymmetric war against an empire. He likens the rebels, the good guys, to the American colonists fighting against the British Empire, and he also likens them to the Vietnamese fighting against the American Empire. So it's very clear right from the start how Star Wars viewed those events and those world events and who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. If you've ever seen George Lucas's feature film THX 1138, the themes also include an anti-authoritarian kind of slant towards this hyper-authoritarian government, and it also talks about police brutality at the hands of AI police, essentially. So it's very clear how George feels about these things and how he uses his own opinions to shape the world that he creates in Star Wars and how it has been influenced since its inception. I mean, even just thinking back to the prequels, they were extremely political. I remember as a child just being fascinated with the Galactic Senate, and even more so now as an adult that really understands that. There was a lot of great interviews back in 2005 relating Star Wars to Bush's presidency, and there are some fantastic quotes from George talking about how he didn't realize how true the line about democracy dying to thunderous applause would be. He also makes this really great point that democracies aren't stolen, they're sold. So it was very clear right from the beginning and through into the prequel trilogy that there are so many influences with political, events going on. There is also this hilarious commentary that I found and I have been laughing about all week. But Palpatine was meant to look like Richard Nixon. And I mean, they're the same picture. And then we have the sequel trilogy, which admittedly isn't as politically overt as George's trilogies, but it's still there. All you have to do is watch The Force Awakens and watch Hux's scene when they are getting ready to destroy the Hosnian Prime, and it's very clear that he is meant to evoke thoughts of Hitler. Just point blank, that is what that scene is meant to remind you of. So it's there, and Star Wars is political, it has always been political, and I really find it interesting that the people who say Star Wars isn't political, usually extremely loudly and aggressively on social media, are the very same people who are voting towards the dark side. I'm just saying. If saying Star Wars isn't political is what helps you sleep at night, so be it. Now now that we've got all of that out of the way and you are fully aware of the fact that Star Wars is political, I can talk about a couple other fun things that came this week. My incredible friend Diana sent me this. I can now live every 90s kid's dream of having my very own chia pet, and this one is child chia pet. It's super cute. I haven't opened it yet. Kind of afraid that I'm going to kill it because I do not have a green thumb, but it's a chia pet, so I feel like it's kind of easy. I mean, all the 90s kids were, growing them in the 90s. I did kill my Tamagotchi though, so hopefully I won't kill my chia. Look at this, it's like chia! Okay, this is adorable. I cannot wait to grow my very own child. I guess it buds. That was a very, very mild spoiler to The Mandalorian Season 2 premiere, but hopefully you will forgive me for it. And then in other things that came in the mail this week, I received this. It is so cute. I am obsessed with it. I was going to save it for an unboxing, but I could not control myself, and I opened it up like as soon as it came. Just watch, just wait. Do you see this? Do you see this? I'm obsessed. He also sleeps. You can lay him down and he does like little... He's so cute and I am obsessed. I may or may not have bought the remote control child too, so whenever that comes, I will be sharing that with all of you. I told you I'm going to buy all the child merchandise that comes out, so that is a thing that you can look forward to on Let's Talk About Star Wars, the unboxing of the Child Weekly. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to talking to all of you next week and hanging out with you on this channel while I talk about a certain point of view. So excited about this. Literally going to start reading it right now. So I hope all of you have a great week and rewatch The Mandalorian season premiere and see what else you find in the episode. I'm sure there are a ton of Easter eggs because it's Star Wars.